morning. I've got Taya Browning here. Is that the name you go by?
Yes.
Taya Browning.
Yeah.
Okay.
My Facebook is Ron and Taya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long have you lived in Tisdale? Because we don't really know each other.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen you come in the shop a few times. I've seen you around town. I follow you on Facebook. But have you always lived in Tisdale?
We moved here when I was in kindergarten, and then I did all my high school here, left, and then 15 years later came back. So we've been here 4.5 years.
Oh,
as
okay.
adults.
Nice.
Yeah.
So was your husband from here also?
No, he's from Meadow Lake area.
Oh, okay.
We met in Calgary, and yeah.
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 So when you graduated high school, where did you go? You went off to school?
Calgary.
You went to Calgary, and what were you doing there?
Bible college. So I was going to be a Christian counselor and burnt out in the training, so realized I am not.
Tell me about that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I can love you to death, but I can't help you sort your problems out.
And that's what you were hoping to go and do?
Yeah.
So what was the name of that school?
Alberta Bible College.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of things do you take there?
Oh no, this college is a 4-year, so you can be like a pastor or a kids program director in the church.
So at what point while you were there did you realize this is not for me?
My second year. I went back my second year kicking and screaming, and I said, Mom, I'm going to be a Christmas grad. I'm dropping out, and I want to be here. I hate the city. And met Ron that fall, so I stuck it out a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ring by spring or your money back.
That's awesome. So then you decided it's not for me. Did you have anything else in mind, or were you just knew you didn't want to do that?
I just knew I couldn't. I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I was bound and determined to be the breadwinner of the family. I was going to be out getting the money. He can stay at home and raise the kids. Homeschool if he wants to. I was like, homeschool? No way.
Yeah.
They're weird.
Interestingly enough, you became a homeschooling mom.
Yeah.
And that, I'm intrigued by this. I want to get into that. But first, let's talk a little bit more about like your growing up years. And I'm always so interested in when people graduate high school, what happens in those next 5-ish years, because it seems like we put so much pressure on our kids and on people to make a decision at that point in their life what they want to do and where they want to go.
Yeah.
So once you realized you didn't want to take the path that you had chosen, what was the path from there? Tell me about where you went from there.
Well, Ron and I started dating in 2002, got engaged in 2003. So I basically went from college, dating, engaged, and then I was a stay-at-home wife, which I hated, but Ron thought if we were going to be a one-income family when we had kids, let's get used to it now.
Okay.
I hated it, but I volunteered. So I volunteered at Calgary Reads, which is a program in the city that helped kids who were lacking their reading skills to just catch them up.
Okay.
And then I worked at another program called Rainbows at a local church there in the city, and it helped families who were going through any sort of death, loss, and divorce of any kind. So then through that, healed through my parents' divorce and questions that I had from that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was just, I'm a busy bee. I love to be doing things.
But that's so interesting because at the beginning you said, I can love you to death, but I can't help you fix your problems.
Yeah.
But you actually, you got to know how to solve problems like that.
Yeah.
And you seem like a very nurturing person. Like you would want to share that.
Yeah.
So is that where you started thinking about that maybe homeschooling was an option when you'd have a family?
No, we started homeschooling because Ron and I, we were missionaries. We were reaching unreached people groups in the city, sharing the gospel. And then we started speaking in churches down in the States. His parents are from down there.
Okay.
So we had a lot of supporters down there. So during the school year, we did that. And it's during school year. So we thought, well, we'll homeschool because you can't pull the kid out of school for 3 months and then back in, and you don't get an education that way.
Okay, so that's why you started homeschooling, because it fit your lifestyle at the time.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so I follow you on Facebook and I always think, oh my goodness, Taya's got it together.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, serious. Like the things you do, you're so into cooking. I see you do a lot of great things. With the homeschooling too, your kids are always doing something cool.
Yeah.
And I find that so refreshing, and I almost have like jealousy. I don't know what the
don't.
word is. Yeah, because it's like, you look like such an involved mom, and your lessons and your lesson plans that you share that you do with your kids with homeschooling are amazing. Tell me about your homeschooling journey a little bit.
Okay.
Like how it started, how you got into it, how you
Yeah.
felt about it at the beginning.
So again, back in our Calgary days, we ended up doing some marriage retreats and figuring out that we love to entertain and serve people and create atmospheres for people. So we worked at a training retreat center, and I cooked full time in the facility, and Ron was maintenance groundsman or whatever. Our oldest went to kindergarten, preschool, and he was bullied, punched in the gut. The teacher didn't do anything except told the kid to sit over here. Anyway, so through that experience, it cemented the idea of homeschooling. So I was terrified. I was scared because I'm a list checker. I'm a real stickler, and I got to make sure my kids get the proper education. Ever since Ronnie was like 2 or 3, he wanted to be a doctor. So sciences and maths, and I don't do science and math. Yeah, so then I'm a very hands-on learner, I've been finding out over the years. So that's why we do a lot of the experiments and activities and cementing our knowledge through play.
Yeah. That's what I find so amazing, because I feel like that's something that's really gotten lacking in public schools because they're short on resources, they're short on time, and you have the opportunity to be one-on-one with your kids. Yeah. So how was that for your kids? Was it ever an issue where they were like, hey mom, I kind of want to go to school with the other kids?
When we moved here, Ronnie was in grade 6, and I asked him if he wanted to go to school or stay home. And he goes, Mom, the move here is change enough. I'll do homeschool. So then every year we reevaluate. What are you going to do? Are you liking it here? Do you want to go to public school? And then at one of the homeschool conferences, I found out that he was pretty advanced in his math and sciences, just because we do a lot of play, and like I just want to make sure they are academically wise, because I don't want to be one of those, oops, we should have done it the different way.
Yeah, no, like that is what is admirable to me, is you really honestly, you can tell that you care about your kids' education. And I know like when the pandemic hit and we had to go to homeschool for a while, I was terrified. I was like, how can this be my responsibility? I'm not a teacher. I don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge. Yeah. So you didn't have to deal with that.
No, and that was the first time in my homeschool career I was like, thank you, Jesus. Homeschool. I don't do good with change. Yeah. My kids would not have been schooled. I would have been in bed under the covers shaking. Like, you parents are amazing. You teachers teaching through a pandemic. Yeah, it's incredible.
Honestly.
Like, it's hard work. Yeah.
So what is involved in homeschooling then? Do you have to apply for a program? How do you go about that?
So right now we register with the Northeast School Division there in Melfort, and I just tell them our intent to homeschool, and I let them know what curriculum that we are teaching. That way if they ever have any questions or want to know, then they have it there. They don't.
So
have
you
to
get to choose?
Oh yeah, we are full. Whatever we want, we get to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you judge then what you want to teach your kids? Do you kind of try and follow the curriculum that the kids in school learn, or how do you choose that?
With our kids' interests, like it's very free, so that again, Ronnie wanted to be a doctor, still does. He doesn't know exactly what yet, but he still does. So just heavy in the arts and sciences, or not arts, sorry, sciences and math. Isabel, she's a lot like me, where she would rather play outside in the field, flipping around a little bit, and so it's harder for her. So her math and sciences weren't as strong as Ronnie's is. You just get to pick and choose that suit your kid and what they want as they get older, and they kind of figure out what they want. And being at home with the kids, you really get to see where they are naturally gifted.
Right. Yeah. So then how does that work when you're saying, okay, he wants to go on to become a doctor and he's going to have to get post-secondary schooling. So do they have to write an exam at grade 12 or every year, or I'm interested in that.
Yeah, so I can choose to have the kids write an exam at the end of every school year at the Northeast School Division would administer. I choose to hand in a portfolio of work that we do. So it's like, here's what we've done. And at first it used to be boxes of stuff, because I go, what if I miss something?
Yeah.
And
somebody goes through it and judges whether they
they just say thank you. And
wow.
Yeah.
So what are the pros and cons? Like, are there things about homeschooling that you struggle with?
The cleanliness of my house.
Well, you got science experiments going on.
Like, it's clutter. It's clean clutter. It's clean. It's a clean mess, but it's, oh my gosh, every countertop is full. Yeah.
Well, I know your kids do get a lot of socialization in the community. I know they've been involved in the library program when my kids have been involved. And also sports, extracurricular. I know you're very involved in the gymnastics club.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. You were a gymnast growing up. Were you a gymnast with the Twisters?
I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was. And
Part
I
of
loved
that
it.
crew? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were taught under Stan.
Stan Rosinski and Dawn Ives. So I quit for a few years and then went back under Dawn. Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. And when we were living in Battleford, we heard Tisdale Twisters close their doors, which I got really sad about.
Yeah.
But we were managing Battleford's gymnastics, and so we phoned or emailed the gym here and asked if we could buy a set of their bars because we needed more bars in there, and they said no. They're putting everything in storage and holding it. Well, like then, 2 years later when we moved, I was very thankful they told me no.
Yeah. I was on the executive when we had to close up because we were in the mall and we had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And that was the struggles. You don't want to, the history of the Tisdale Twisters Club, you don't want to be the one to let it all go just over a building, like, you know. Yeah. And so were you integral in getting the gymnastics going again in Tisdale?
I was. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we moved here in August, and then October I had a community parent meeting at the Tisdale Community Bible Church info night just to say, hey, this is who we are. We just moved to town and we want to restart the gymnastics program. And the rest is history, like it's going. This year, since COVID came, I haven't gone back to work. I mentally needed a break because I was being something that I wasn't. So I'm not a leader. I don't like leading things. I'm a great second in command, but to run a program...
That's so funny to hear you say that, because I would think that somebody who is homeschooling your children, you have to be somewhat of a leader.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I'm more of a quiet leader. Yeah.
You're not coaching now, but you're still involved. Your kids, are your kids still involved in
Isabel's
the program?
doing the Excel program right now. Yeah. So I took her out of the competitive program for this year just because of COVID. And I go, I don't know if we're having any competitions. And I needed a mental health year. Yeah. Like I couldn't, and she was going 3 days a week and I couldn't.
So what was it that made you need to take that break? Was it because of the pandemic or?
I think because of COVID, I burnt out. And I think COVID allowed me to see how close to burnout I was, which was a blessing and a curse.
So what were you burnt out with before? Like, you mean you found the burnout after?
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID? Okay.
Yeah, and so a year ago, I was not the coach that I wanted to be. I was short-tempered. I was yelling more at the kids. Gymnastics standard is here. I wanted them to live up here, and it was just I was not who I was. Like I didn't like the person I was becoming, and I was living in a fight or flight all the time because you're running a home and teaching school, and then at lunchtime is your turnaround hour to get back into town or get into town. Yeah. To run a program from 3:30 till 8:30.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much.
Yeah. So now that you've taken a step back, you found that you're happier, you're more adjusted. Yeah. And so is that a change that you think you'll keep?
I don't know. Because I miss the gym. I really miss the gym.
Probably a struggle,
yeah. But if
you get into that, I would imagine you get into that situation because you care so much and because you want to be involved. But then when it becomes too much, where do you find the balance, right?
Yeah, and that's hard. I can't because it's like, oh, this is going well. Let's try this one now. And that's going well. Let's do this. And it was just too many hats, too many programs, too much stuff.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about it now?
Well, because I took the year off, I was able to get a cookbook ready. I'm ready to push send to the publisher.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you. Because I know this is another thing about you that I admire, and you focus on very healthy foods and also gluten-free, right? Yeah. Any other dietary restrictions? Tell me about this cookbook. Like, what type of cookbook is it?
So it will be gluten-free, dairy-free, IBS friendly. Like my guts are destroyed. Yeah. So then just over the last 8 years, having to go and change my diet with no mentorship, nobody who's done it before me, and just trial and error.
Yeah, and then that's what it seems like it is with people, right?
Yeah.
Where was the beginning of this idea? Tell me about that.
Okay, so years ago, probably 11 years ago, I started writing recipes down. And then I broke my computer, and the recipes are locked in the computer. I can't get them out. So then after that, I was having a lot of issues and stomach issues, and went to the doctor, and they just want to put you on antidepressants. And I said, no, something's wrong.
For stomach issues?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So then we finally, 3 years later, found the celiac disease. And then, so then I thought, well, it's a good thing my computer crashed, because that other recipes were full of flour and dairy and stuff. But now I got to redo my cookbook. And 7 years later, I finally got the nerve and the time, thanks to not working.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Thank you.
So you've been in touch with a publisher and you have it all ready to go. That's a big process.
It's huge. Yeah.
So how did you learn kind of where to get started, how to get going on that?
Google.
Yeah, really. That's where you can learn everything.
Yeah, and then I put my information in, and I got a phone call, and then I think the publishing company's in BC, so he'll edit and market and everything.
Oh,
I don't have
really?
to do anything now.
Wow, good for you. Well, that's exciting.
Thank you.
So when can we expect to get Taya Browning's cookbook?
If I can get the finances in place to get it published, I'm hoping Christmas.
Oh, wow. What's it called?
I don't know yet.
Oh, really? That's so exciting. Good for you. So is that something that you kind of tinkered around with while you're homeschooling your kids? Like,
Yeah.
Because like I mentioned, you do a lot of food-based learning with your kids.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what kind of things do you try and teach them through nutrition and food preparation?
So a lot of our mental health starts in the gut. So just talking to them about that with our sciences. And Ronnie got a cake pan for Christmas as a skeleton. I hate Halloween, but love Halloween now because that's when all the skeletons come out, and he wants to be a doctor. So I grab all the skeletons, and we'll label bones, and we'll label tendons, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he got a cake pan, so I made him make the cake pan, and then he labeled the bones with this little icing and little toothpick flings. And
so creative. That's what amazes me, and that's why I was saying, like, I have mom envy when I see your Facebook posts, because I'm just like, that's so creative. It's such an amazing way to keep your kids engaged, and your kids are really well-adjusted, well-rounded, amazing, intelligent kids, and I applaud you for that. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your social life then. What kind of things do you do in the community to stay engaged with people? Because I know that's a huge component of mental health as well. Yeah.
Well, gymnastics was a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago now, a year and a half ago, I joined the museum board.
Oh, really?
They're like, Taya, you're crazy. You're doing gymnastics. And I go, I do this as a hobby so I can have, be refreshed here so I can go and do what I do. Yeah. But I love it. I love the museum board. We used to volunteer at the Western Development Museum in Battleford, and so now it's here in Tisdale. My kids love it. They love all things old.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, what's going on over at the museum?
We're actually right now are canvassing the town. I've got some posters up. We want to hear all your COVID stories. They're going to create a thing. We're not too sure exactly what we're going to do with all the stories yet, but we'll see what we get, and maybe we'll compile into a book or something.
So what do you mean by COVID stories?
Document what you've gone through, what you're going through, how you felt, how you feel, the good, bad, the ugly of COVID. What did it do for you?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Right, because everybody has a story. COVID allowed me to write my cookbook.
I want to go back to your love story for a second, because I love asking my guests about this. I just find it's such a huge part of life, right? Like you said, you meet your person, and then you're building a life together, and you make your decisions based on that. Yeah. So tell me how you and Ron met.
Oh gosh. So in the school hallways, and he was wearing Wranglers and Ropers, and I was like, You're tight. Because I was always told when I was going to Calgary that it was Cowtown. Oh, there's going to be cowboys everywhere, and I'm a sucker for a cowboy. And there was none. They came out at Stampede, and I go, well, those are fake ones. I want the real deal. Yeah, so he showed up with his ropers and wranglers.
And that was it?
That was it. We'd go for coffee, and I was like, oh, yeah, Dad. And I thought his name was Rod.
Were you calling him Rod to his face? For how long?
3 months.
Oh, no way! He didn't correct you for 3 months? That's hilarious.
Because he's so soft-spoken.
Yeah.
So we go to Cheesecake Cafe, and I'd talk to my dad, and Dad would call me every day, all day. And be like, yo, I'm going out for coffee with Rod. Don't worry, he's not my type. He's too quiet.
He's not my type. Well, at what point did you realize he was definitely your type, or tell your dad that he was your type?
Yeah, so we went to a Paul Brandt concert. So Paul Brandt was doing, I don't know, something at the Jubilee Auditorium, downtown Calgary. So I went into the student body lounge and said, hey, Paul Brandt's coming to town, who wants to go? And I was hoping Ron would say yes, but I didn't want to directly ask him. So he came, and another friend of mine was going to come, and I was on the way to get tickets, and I phoned Tracy, and I said, listen, I need to know if you're coming, because I'm buying tickets, and I don't want to buy your ticket if you're not coming. And later on, I didn't buy her ticket, because she never got back to me. She goes, you were going with that Rod guy, and I didn't want to be the third wheel. I'm like, he was just a friend.
Everybody else could see.
Yeah. So then at the concert, before we were waiting for Paul Brandt to start, I just told him, I said, this is who I am, this is what I do on dates, this is what I don't do on dates, I wait for marriage, blah, 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 like all of it, because I had thought I'd fallen in love before, and it just didn't work out. So, yeah, then the rest is history, and then...
So at what point did he tell you his name wasn't Rod?
No, okay.
This kills me.
So
cute.
It was a very small Bible college, so then to keep the costs down too, it was nice and frugal college to go to. The students all had little jobs, so my second year I became like one of the professors, I don't know, little assistant or whatever. So I'm correcting tests, and his name is Ron Browning. I go, Ron Browning? I thought it was Rod. But there was another girl who was into him, and she was very loud and boisterous, and like, you know, those type of people that you didn't really want to get on their bad side because they would make your life hell. And I was like, ooh, she likes him. She wants him. I was friends with her, and Ron was terrified of her. So, yeah, it was, yeah.
You backed off and let him come to you?
Off. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was good.
So then, okay, you dated for a while? Or...
Yeah, we dated about a year, and then it was Thanksgiving of 2003. We came home to Tisdale, Valparaiso, actually, to Mom's for Christmas, and we had our first big fight on Saturday.
Really?
We're walking around Valparaiso, and he's telling me, oh, when we get married, we'll move to Star City or close by. And then he's like, you're not getting excited about moving home. I go, well, no, because we're not engaged. Like, there's no promise. There's no future. I will not.
Okay.
So I got mad at him. And then Monday, before we hopped in the car to drive back to Calgary, he proposed.
Really?
Yeah. In the little forts. I was taken around all over Valparaiso, the bushes where we had forts as kids.
Yeah. He didn't want to let you get away.
Yeah.
Smart guy.
Yeah. But he bought the ring from my mom in June from Marquardt Jewelers because she was working there. And he didn't propose until October.
Oh.
So my poor mother, every time I would phone home,
and
she
bitch
would be
about
like,
not being engaged. That's awesome.
She thought he changed his mind.
That's cute.
Yeah.
So how many kids do you guys have?
We have 3.
3 kids.
Yes.
So tell me about early motherhood. Did you always know that you wanted to have a family?
Always. Yeah. I wanted to be a mom. Number 1, a mom. Number 2, gymnastics coach. And
nailed
doing
it.
Both. Yeah. Done that. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. What was it like for you?
It was good. I loved being a mom.
Yeah.
Ronnie, I didn't realize Ronnie was colicky and grumpy and like he was a nasty child, but I didn't know he was my first. Isabel came and she was so calm.
You know what? My first was very colicky, and I knew something was... Yeah.
And then Isabel, because Ronnie wasn't sleeping through the night. He didn't sleep through the night till he was 26 months old. And Isabel was already born. So I didn't sleep for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's a lot, hey?
So now I sleep in. If I sleep in till 8:30, so be it. And I don't feel guilty about it anymore.
Yeah, get that sleep when you can.
Yeah. We were always taught in the mission field to have a vision statement, which is great for anywhere. Your marriage, your business. My homeschool has a mission statement. And it was to preach the gospel and share the love of Jesus to the community around us. So once we finally changed that and took the people group out of there, that's when we started doing marriage retreats, because a lot of people around us were divorcing all over the map, all over the globe, Christians, non-Christians, like everywhere. And that broke my heart. So I thought, it's because we live a life so secluded, even back then, from everybody. So we started doing little marriage retreats. Again, we're not fixing you. This is just so that we can be friends. And if I see that there's something going on, then I can have that freedom to say, hey, what's going on?
Again, hilarious, because you said, I can love you to death, but I can't fix your problems. But you're finding all these ways to basically help people solve their own problems.
Yeah, so we started with 3 couples first, and then the second one was 7 couples, and then we moved to Saskatchewan and didn't do marriage retreats since. But after that first retreat, I forget where we were going now. But after that first retreat is when we changed the mission from the people group to just the community around us. And that's when we moved out of the city into Water Valley, into the training retreat center, and worked in a kitchen full time. Yeah. And then that's where my love for cooking grew. And interesting enough, I was being mentored for 2 days under this chef that was working there for retreats. And his wife was diagnosed with celiac disease. And he goes, I gotta figure this out. I can't come back. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be trained under you. I don't know what to do.
So you were just left on your own then.
On my own.
You had to figure it out.
Yeah.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how things seem to always
Full
come
circle.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you're doing these, I'm interested in these marriage retreats, because that must be a very satisfying feeling to be able to see positive progress.
Yeah.
Because of something you've facilitated.
Yeah.
So what were the highlights of doing those marriage retreats?
The first one was, oh my gosh, it was just the 3 couples. And so I got to make picnic baskets for them and send them off to go and have lunch together. We did a session in communication, which, you just have to do sessions because that's what you do. And then in the evening at supper time, I taught them to waltz on the little veranda of the place that we were staying at.
Oh yeah.
In the moonlight. It was so, it was
So
nice.
how long were these retreats?
Like 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights, Friday to Sunday.
So could you see an actual difference in the couples from the time that they arrived to the time that they left?
I don't know, because I was so like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's out of my
Really?
comfort zone. Yeah, that I was so nervous in my own self to see.
Yeah.
They did look a lot more relaxed, and the one couple is still together from that very first. The other couple is not, but that's what happens. That's what life happens.
And that's why you go to the retreats to figure stuff out, right?
Yep, and if you can't, you can't, and there's no judgment. Like, we're all friends still. And
so how long have you and Ron been married?
It will be 17 years this June.
So in 17 years, you must have hit a few rough patches.
Oh
yourself.
gosh, we just got out of one. So a couple years ago, I was working in my raspberry patch, and I told him, you better smarten up or I'm leaving. I'm walking. And I'm yelling and swearing, and we got it, or I'm leaving.
So how do you get through something like that?
I'm stubborn, and I didn't want to leave, because I know when life's going good, this is like, ideals are here and you're all living here and things are going well. So I just had to hold on to hope that he wanted it to be well also.
So then at that point, do you do a lot of work together? Do you go back to your marriage retreat time and think, what can we do to solve this?
Yeah.
What kind of things? Because I know I stalk in your Facebook page.
Yeah.
I also see you guys do a lot of date night stuff, and you really put an effort into your marriage. And something when I did an interview with Barb Reed the other day, and she said, you're either working on your marriage or you're working on your divorce.
Yes.
And I love that. I've quoted it like 8 times since she said that.
Yeah.
But tell me about the things that you and Ron do to work on your marriage.
When it got that bad, we started doing couples counseling. Yeah, and now I do my own individual counseling, because usually when two people can't seem to work it out, it's because you both have demons that you need to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And years ago, okay, I have to tell you a secret.
My favorite.
Here's the tea. Ron broke his toe while he was upset with me. He kicked the wall, missed the wall, and hit the door jam. And broke his toe. So I phoned my brother and I said, Jesse, what did you do? Or what would you do? And he goes, Taya, you got to work on you first. So then I don't know what that was, like 7 years ago. No, 6 years ago, just started going, okay, work on me first. And I'm short-tempered. You don't see that out there, but at home, like, oh yeah, this girl has a temper. And sometimes I can hold grudges.
Well, it seems like you're very self-aware.
Yeah.
You've been working on yourself.
Yeah, so we do. Every couple has their story.
Yeah.
Every couple has their
Absolutely.
the fires they have to walk through.
But what an amazing thing to be able to teach your kids also.
Yeah.
That you work together, you work on it, and they must see that a lot.
Yeah.
When you're homeschooling your kids, do you do a lot of like learning about relationships?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because you can't walk away from your siblings in a homeschool,
Yeah.
right? Like you're there 24/7, and we do. And early on in their lives, I would tell them, you have one sister.
Yeah.
Treat her with respect.
Isn't it funny though I know as a kid I was the same way, and I see it in my kids. You don't get that when you're that age. You just get annoyed.
Yeah.
You don't realize that how important that bond is really, because you have it every day.
Yeah.
But I would think that as homeschooled kids, like, so I think some people, and probably myself too, I have this preconceived idea that homeschooled kids would be like best friends with their siblings.
So far they are. And they'll go through their phases. Like Timothy and Isabel will go off and be friends. Well, Ronnie, he's 15 and Timothy's 11. So they don't always connect, but they do really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ronnie's 15. He's the same age as Mercedes then.
Yeah.
She's turning 16 soon.
Okay.
So what kind of things does he do to get involved with other kids, like peers his own age?
Yeah,
Is that in the church or?
Yeah, in the church we do Sunday school, Sunday morning. So there's kids his age there, and he did football for a year.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought would help with his aggression and stuff like that, and it didn't. It made him a little bit more angry.
Tell me about that. No, that's interesting. Tell me about that actually, because I did a Mondays with Mom this week about parenting teens.
Oh my God.
Because I've got Mercedes is turning 16 and Jet's just coming up. He's just 13.
Yeah.
And it's just like a whole different animal.
They're aliens. Like, I don't know what happened when. And like Ronnie and I, we are so similar. So it is hard. It's hard to homeschool him. It's hard to love him some days. But I know where he's coming from. Mm-hmm. So I think I have a lot of compassion, because I know, okay, you're angry.
Yeah.
And anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
So let's figure out where that's coming from and giving them space. So he went through some struggles of his own a couple of years ago. So we developed a truth journal. And so we have this book that we write back and forth in. If he needs to tell me something and he can't verbalize it, it's just in this book.
Oh, that's an amazing idea.
It's working amazing. And Isabel and I, same thing.
Where did you get that idea?
Pinterest.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Because it can be hard to keep those lines of communication open with your kids the older they get.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the lines of communication, but it's like what they're comfortable telling you, right?
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So, and it's just a duotang because they're cheap and
whatever works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you found that you've really gotten to get to know him better through that practice? Yeah. What kind of other tips do you have for all us struggling moms?
The other one is we have an emotion called blah, where you're not happy, you're not mad, you look pissed off, but you're not.
Yeah.
Because I'll try to get to the root of it. Well, what's going on? Let's make it better. And how are you feeling? And well, nothing, Mom, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are not mad.
Fine.
Well,
I'm fine.
Yeah. So I said, well, then just tell me your blah, and that means I'll just leave you alone, and I won't pick at you then. Just try to get to the root of what the issue is.
Yeah.
We are allowed, because we as humans, as adults, sometimes we're just like, meh.
Yeah.
Numb. Maybe we're numb. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or you just don't feel like talking that day.
Yeah.
But something that scares me now is the state of mental health for our kids.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't see it as much with your kids being affected from the pandemic because they've been able to, for the most part, keep their regular routines.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a difference in my kids, and I know a lot of people whose kids are in public school.
And it's these.
I know, right?
There's so much, you can hide so much in here.
So what's your rule on screen time in your home?
I don't have any time because Ronnie just got his first cell phone like a couple weeks, or his first iPhone a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Isabel got hers at Christmas, but because Ronnie, he's a rule breaker. So he lost that
like his
privilege.
mom.
So he got his a little bit later than we wanted to because he was being disciplined. But we have parental controls on here. We have parental controls on our computers at home. And he was offended at first. And he got angry. Like, the kid has punched holes in my wall. He gets angry.
Yeah.
And so I took him downstairs and I said, listen, it's not because we're disciplining you.
Yeah.
It's because there's all these demons out there trying to get in. So I'm a very visual person. So I'm doing driving and I'm like, we're keeping all the demons out to keep you safe.
But it really is a scary thing because if you're not watching over your kid's shoulder what they're looking at, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that I struggle with that because especially with the pandemic and all their regular activities being taken away, it's hard. And then I was talking about this the other day too. I was guilty of becoming like a lazy parent because just go on your own. Just because when we were kids, our parents, we were in charge of entertaining ourselves.
Yes.
We had to entertain ourselves, but we didn't have those phones, right? So our parents would say, go do something. And we'd go outside and build a fort, or we'd go hang out with our friends, or we'd go whatever. But I tell my kids, go do something, and they want to go get on a screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Same with my kids. We have a Wii, and like even now the kids always phone. Now they text, but they used to phone. Can I play Wii?
Yeah.
I said no.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, when I was in bed, like I stayed in bed early part of COVID.
Why?
Just because of my mental health, I couldn't fathom, I couldn't think, I didn't know right where our bills are going to come from, and
you're going through it.
Yeah. So then, sure, I don't really care. And then Ron was like, they better stop watching so much TV. And I'm like, I'm home with them and you're not.
Yeah. No, it is. It's hard.
So there is. Sometimes the electronics is a babysitter or entertainer for my kids too. It's just...
Something that I really struggle with is being the tough parent.
Oh, gosh.
It's so hard for me. And I had this issue trying to be a boss too.
Yeah.
To my employees.
Yeah. And
you always just want to you think if you're friends with people, things will move more smoothly. Everybody gets along. We have mutual respect. But that's not the way it is because as a parent, you have to be a leader.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, you are very much a leader because you have been able to establish those boundaries with your kids. And they might push back on you, but I think you're probably doing a way better job than I am. I have a really hard time with establishing boundaries and being disciplined myself as a parent to follow through on those.
Yeah, because a lot of times if you discipline them, you're disciplining yourself.
That's exactly, I think, you just nailed it right there.
Yeah.
My problem in disciplining my kids is my problem in disciplining myself.
Yeah.
To be a disciplined parent.
Yeah.
So have you had to work on that, or did it always kind of come easy?
No, I had to work on it.
Yeah.
I had to work on it because I didn't want little shitheads walking around.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Can I swear on here?
It's true. Because that's what I find myself sitting here complaining about my 13-year-old kid, but really, I mean, he's a 13-year-old kid. He's going to do what he's allowed to do, right?
Yeah, and you have to start young.
Yeah.
Like I started young, so I spanked Isabel. I was a believer in spanking. We don't now because they're older. She was 6 months old when she got her first licking because Ron's stereo was on the floor, which it shouldn't have been, but that's where it was. And she was told multiple times no. And I walked into the room as she was leaning forward, and then she went like this. And I go, ooh.
So she knows.
You know that was
So she
wrong.
knows, yeah.
Yeah, so when I know, they know it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and then somebody had told me, who used to be a part of my life isn't anymore, they said, "Oh, you're so lucky to have good kids. My daughter doesn't have good kids. Like, she's got her hands full." And
They
I
don't
was like,
just
"Thank
come."
you,"
Yeah.
right? And then it was a light bulb came in after that conversation. I was like, I work hard for this.
Yeah.
I put in a lot of consistent discipline, and we are persistent. And I have amazing kids. Like I can leave them home all day long and not worry about them getting into stuff they're not
But
supposed
that's because you've been a disciplined leader of a parent.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm a role model.
You really are. You really are a role model for your kids and a role model for people in the community, because you volunteer a lot. You're always a positive person, uplifting person. I really admire that about
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Well, it's been great getting to know you,
It's
Taya.
good.
See, it went by fast.
It did.
I learned so much about you, and I'm so excited for you and your cookbook.
Thank you.
And cheers to being a leader.
Thanks.
It's been great.
It's been awesome. Thank you.